Last call. Well, we made the jump from Montana to California, and we're here with Eric. We've been discussing pretty much all day Isaiah 8, and we thought, that's video worthy. We looked like in the Blue Letter Bible at all the English translations, specifically Isaiah 8:20 to the law to the testimony. Man, people are all over the place with this thing, Eric. And this is a pretty popular verse, and it's used a lot. Let's dig into this one and read it out a little bit.
Well, if we start off at the beginning of Isaiah 8 here, it says, Yahweh said to me, take a large scroll and write on it in clear script. Plunder hastens, spoil quickens. Well, I was just looking at this word for write on it in clear script. It means chisel, engrave. It was turned turning is something that you would do like on a lathe. It's spinning and you give it a shape. It also means to repent or regret. It's a graving tool, a stylus, a pen or a pencil. Repentance, regret, turn, etch. So it's to write in clear script, but it doesn't necessarily mean clear script. So the point is, it's like one of the problems with doing this study of the ancient language, the Paleo-Hebrew, is that you read a verse in English, and then you look at the translation, and you try to figure out what word it is, so you can learn the language a little bit, like using Strong's Concordance. And then you look it up in the dictionary, Ernest Cline's Red Dictionary, what's left of it, and it's completely different. And then it's like, well, why is the word to engrave or etch or turn something on a lathe? So you might get something like this shofar. You know, you could turn something, or the carvings on like this furniture here. That had to all be done with a tool. And that's what he's talking about. But they just say clear script.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily what they say. So then you read a little further and trying to make sense out of this. This Isaiah chapter 8 is where the word Immanuel is written. Verse 8 and verse 10. It's talking about, actually in verse 6, Isaiah 8 verse 6, because this people, this is Yahweh speaking to Isaiah to talk about what's going to happen to Israel. Because this people, Israel, has rejected the gently flowing water of the Shiloah and has rejoiced with Rezin and the son of Remaliah. Therefore, behold, Yahweh is bringing upon them the mighty and abundant waters of the, it says in quotes, Euphrates River, the king of Assyria in all his glory, and it will rise above all its channels, overflow all its banks. It will pass through Judah, flooding as it passes, reaching to the neck, and its wingspread will be the full breadth of your land, O Immanuel. Well, the word Immanuel, translated as God with us, you know, it's the, here it is, just after December, it's December 27th. Just after the season when people are singing, Immanuel, Immanuel, God with us. What Isaiah 8 is talking about is that our Elohim, Yahweh, Zavot, he gave gentle waters, like David in Psalms 23. A gentle, peaceful meadow to be in, truth, kindness, justice, righteousness. People of Israel didn't really want that. They wanted the chase. They wanted the guns. They wanted the Hollywood movie. They preferred Assyria. They wanted the culture of Assyria. They wanted the war, the pomp and circumstance, you might say, the guns and saddles, as you say, as you might think.
Could it be that they feared them and they thought that they were the overpowering force and they wanted to just side with that?
Well, Well, maybe, but I think they wanted the guts and glory.
Kind of like the Catholic Church with the Nazis.
There's something about fast cars and explosions that people just like. It's not just people in general, but Israel in particular. And this is saying where Yahweh said, look, I gave you my ways, but you preferred the ways of the Syrians. So guess what? The curse is you get to have what you wanted. You want Assyria? You got Assyria. So Yahweh's calling in the Assyrians to come, the mighty Euphrates River. He contrasted with the gentle, you might say, the spring water of what he calls Shiloah. He says it's going to overflow its bank, and it's going to come down here, and it's going to tear you guys apart. So Yahweh himself called in Assyria to devastate, ruin, destroy. Because his people, the people of Israel, who were specifically called to be the treasured people as the representative, as the agent, as it were the viceroy of Yahweh, representing him on earth to the peoples of the earth, Israel kept saying, no, we want to be like Assyria. We really regard the culture and the traditions and the deities of Egypt. Egypt and Assyria were the two go-to places to envision and if we could just have that. And Yahweh said, okay, fine, you want that instead of me? Have it. So Yahweh took away his words, took away his culture, took away any reference of himself. And so here we are at the end of the 2,730-year curse. 2019, we're at the end of 2019. And yet the people said, oh, God is with us. Well, and he said, you want to call yourself Immanuel? That's why they're referencing our land is Immanuel. Well, it's just like Isaiah 29, where Yahweh, where they said, Ariel, Ariel, Lion of God, city where David dwelt. And Yahweh says, you'll be to me like Ariel. Well, the phrase like Ariel literally means ugly, unseemly. Like, this is disgusting garbage and just needs to be thrown out. Yahweh's not impressed with the things we're impressed by, but he wants us to be impressed by him. And historically, our forefathers have not. And then verse 9 talks about destroying. Oh, here, I'll read it. Destroy, this is the English translation, stones to knock. Destroy, O you peoples, and then be devastated yourselves. Hear this, all you faraway places of the world. Gird yourselves and then be shattered. Gird yourselves and then be shattered. Plan a conspiracy, it shall be annulled. Speak peace, it will not stand. For Immanuel. So he's making a play on the words again. God is with us. He's basically saying that there's going to be a certain period of time when he allows a country or a people to just be as stupid as they want to be, as vicious as they want to be. They'll just go on this ravaging rampage, and then when they say, okay, well, I guess we've had enough, and they decide to stop, then they themselves will get the repercussions of what they've handed out. It makes me wonder about America. America has had 200 years of history with pretty vicious, pretty brutal, pretty grabby, taking a hold of what belongs to other peoples. And then if we get to the place where we might, America as a concept, says, okay, let's not do that anymore. We might be ravaged. That's what this is talking about. And Yahweh says, according to a man's way, it'll be returned on his own head. This is a very serious matter. But you know, there's quite a few popular guys these days talking about the fallen angels, the Nephilim returning, space aliens, Illuminati.
The conspiracies that we're warned of in Scripture.
I've heard about these various conspiracy theories since the mid-60s. Taylor Caldwell wrote a book, Captains and Kings, that was all about that. And since 1776, and what was it? It was his name, Andrew Weishaupt or something, whatever his name was. Anyway, but the point is, this stuff has been going on for a while, and for some reason, certain people within our culture are really fascinated and attracted to and gravitate to that stuff. And you get, well, there's certain people that talk about these things. L.A. Marzulli, he's a guy, right? He talks about stuff going on. Stephen Ben Noon, Stephen Pidgeon. There was a couple other ones that were on TV, or I mean the radio. Alex Jones and After dark.
It sells. That stuff sells.
People love to be titillated with trauma
Yep.
and terror. That's why Hollywood movies, horror flicks are such a big deal. Sci-fi, you know. Isaiah 8, verse 12. This is Yahweh speaking. Do not speak of a cabal. Everything this people speaks of is a cabal. And do not fear what they fear. And do not be overwhelmed by it. Yahweh Zavot, him shall you sanctify, set apart for your attention.
Hallelujah.
He is your reverence, and he is your strength. He, Yahuwah, shall be a sanctuary, but also a striking stone and a stumbling rock for the two houses of Israel, a trap and a snare for the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And many people will stumble over them. They will fall down and be broken, trapped, and ensnared. And here's verse 16. Yahweh speaking to Isaiah to say to us, fasten this warning and seal the teaching onto my Talmudim, my students, my disciples, my taught ones. Wait a second.
His segula.
For Yahweh say, take this teaching and clip it onto their shirt, embroider it on their hat.
Write it on their hearts.
Write it on their hearts. Do not let them forget. Well, forget what? How many people has ever even heard of this? And this is pretty important. What is it? Do not speak of conspiracy theories, because this people loves conspiracy theories. Focus your attention on Yahuwah, our Elohim, and what did he say? What did he speak? These letters, what did he pronounce, articulate, word by word, syllable by syllable? We are told, this is the Paleo-Hebrew, the pictograph, the number value, the modern Hebrew, modern cursive, petroglyph, Greek, English, it all goes back to Yahweh's personal words. It's like, oh, they're just some colored picture. Not just some colored picture. We're trying to read, what did Yahweh say? What does he want us to regard? And he's saying, pin this on your shirt. Do not forget this. Verse 17, I shall await for Yahuwah, who has concealed his face from the house of Yaakov, and I will hope to him. So I shall await. I've heard that verse, those who wait upon the Lord will rise up as wings as eagles. Well, there's two words here that mean to wait and hope. One is het kaf, and the other one is kuf vav. It's to wait like you're fishing with a hook. You're just anticipating this future reality. You imagine, oh yeah, boy, when I catch this fish, you can picture the struggle. You can picture bringing them in, cooking them up on the fire, and eating this nice dinner. But then there's this also kuf vav, which is to have hope under tension, which is a tightrope, like a guitar string. Two different types of waiting and hoping. He's concealed his face from the house of Yaakov, but the house of Jacob, the house of Yaakov, that's his people. Why would he hide his face? When did he hide his face? And if he did hide his face, when's his face supposed to come back into view? Has it come back into view yet? Here it is, the end of 2019. Has his face come back into view? Do we even recognize our Elohim? We recognize the traditions, the culture, the religion of Egypt with the pyramids, with the Sphinx, and we got him in the museums. What about Assyria? Well, yeah, we have all that stuff. But Yahweh says in other places, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, various places, Isaiah, he says, my people are stupid. They don't know anything about me. He says, even the stork knows that its times, how it's been set up for migrations and all, but my people don't know their times, which are my times, which are the Moedim, the appointed times. How many people can you go to that are been going to church all their life and say, do you know anything about the appointed times of Yahweh? Oh yeah, the appointed time to be in church on Sunday. Only that's not true. It's just not true. You can go to church on Sunday, but that's not the appointed time to rest by not working, which is Yom HaShabbat, the seventh day Sabbath. And the 7 festivals laid out in Leviticus 23. Those are the appointed times, the Moedim, but I never even learned about them until I went specifically to a meeting called a Torah study, conducted by a Christian minister. But I never in 50 years heard of such a thing. Has Yahweh hid his face? Verse 16, behold, I am the children, now this is Isaiah speaking, whom Yahweh has given me, are signs and symbols for Israel. Well, actually that word signs and symbols, the word symbol is actually the word that means key. There's a key. There's some kind of a symbol to be used meaning something. Like, last call, yellow. What does yellow mean? This happens to be a little traffic light thing that means go, get ready, and stop. Last call, warning, warning. So here's this phrase, verse 16, fasten this warning, just like the yellow light, warning, last call, warning, you better pay attention, there's a little bit of time, better take heed there, pay attention, hey, can I have your attention yet? That's what he's trying to tell Isaiah here. Hear the sound of the shofar. Huh, what? Should I regard something? What catches our attention? A leg? Oh, hey, there's something about that shape, it just does something to you. There's something about the sound of that shofar that does something to you. There's a military man, somebody pulls out a gun, whoa, pay attention. A stoplight. What I'm saying, there's all these, a phone ringing, well, hey, should I pay attention? Should I take heed? Should I perk up? Should I regard? Countless books written about the interests to human mind that Yahuwah created us to be fascinated by Billy Bunny. But do we know Yahweh's words? Do we even pay any attention? The reason we're making these videos is to just take a few moments to bring some attention to what did Yahweh say. Our Abba, Daddy Yahweh, what did he say? And what did he mean by that?
It's really cool that for the hours we spent on Isaiah 8 today, how much depth you get out of it. If you're just sitting in a group and talking about it amongst your friends, discussing these words and each verse and dig out the depth of what he's actually, the message he's trying to relate. And it's so important. Everybody really needs to do a study on Isaiah 8 and take it to heart. It's the real deal.
Letter by letter, in Hebrew, word by word. I made this poster for people to get the advantage of understanding what the letters mean. I've made a second version of it here that I try to make available. It's a little bigger. This is the array of the cards.
Oh, cool.
So it's got a few extra rows added to the bottom that the other one doesn't have.
It's upside down there.
That's all the cards that are in the deck. But anyway,
Yeah.
That's a different matter. But the reason for this is so that we can understand what he said and what he meant. It's just a matter of taking the time, even if you have to do it playing cards or goofing around or talking with your friends. It's take the time to do it.
But just the fact that we look like at the Blue Letter Bible and all the English versions of that one particular verse, how all over the map it was.
Well, maybe you could read a couple of those. You have your.
I don't have it with me.
Rats. Okay. Well, anyway, here, let's look at verse 19. It says in here, in Stones to Knock, it says, if people say to you, inquire of the necromancers and the diviners who chirp and snort, respond by saying, should not a people inquire of their own God? Should we inquire of the dead for the living? I swear by the Torah and the teaching that they will make this statement to you which has no light of dawn. Wait, make what statement to you? Let me go back and read this again. If people say to you, inquire of the necromancers and the diviners who chirp and snort, I swear that they will make this statement to you that has no light of dawn. if I try to wrap my mind around that, that's like, okay, go to the palm readers, the astrologers, what does this mean? I don't know of any necromancers and diviners. I don't know of anybody who chirps and snorts. The only thing I can do is take these Hebrew words and write them down and then use the dictionary and try to figure out what it means. And what it seems to say is, so says Yahweh Elohim, seek toward fathers, patriarchs, ancestors, and towards scientists, knowledgeable ones, whose mission objective is to find or refine delicate pleasure in finding out how things work, knowledge. Pressing together, then the word is observatory or lookout or watchtower, the best, the worthiest. Well, that sounds like doctors and theologians. The word here has to do with pondering, music, reading, logic. But it was translated as necromancers and diviners who chirp and snort. If I look at the words in the dictionary, it says, why are you going toward seeking knowledgeable ones who try to find the beauty of knowledge? Kind of sounds like scientists, professors. And press together, that's hey mem, zadi pay. It's translated press together, Twitter, peep, whistle, observatory, lookout, watchtower. And it's zadi and pay is zadi is a picture of a flourish, a sprout, and pay is a mouth or something opening. So you could picture, the opening of knowledge, the opening of understanding. Hey, who are you going to find out how things work? Is kind of what he's saying. It doesn't necessarily mean necromancers and diviners who chirp and snort. It might mean doctors, professors, and scientists who have a good intent but have no regard of Yahuwah and what he said. And then it goes on to say, hello, hey lamed vav aleph, means literally, hello, that's how you pronounce it, or it's translated, is it not? It's kind of like this question in the negative. With Elohim, seek, I'm giving you the literal one-word meanings of these words, seek among the living toward the dead. So what does this mean? He said, listen, the authors of these books, these are old books, the authors of these books are all dead. There's many subjects represented here, great subject. There's one about trains. There's all kinds of history, there's science, Funny Froggy, Billy Bunny, just for the fun, just for the beauty of poetry. But where's the books about life? Here's the book of life, the words of the Torah, written in Hebrew. If you want to know about life, go to the source of life. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of this stuff. Even this interesting leg lamp. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with talking to your friends on the phone. But how much time do we really try to figure out what did Yahweh say? What is this purpose of life on earth? Is it just to have bigger guns and faster cars? Really? That's what life is about? If that's what you want your life to be about, then have at it. Be one of the knowledgeable scientists who press together the treasures and open up the details of the atoms and elements of the universe. And then this word to ponder music, reading, logic is hey mem, hey gimel, hamag. Well, the root of that is hey gimel, hey hagah, which is that word that means to navigate, steering wheel, helm, rudder, to pronounce, to articulate. A previous word there, dwelling on Mount Zion, Yahweh's Avot, who dwells on Mount Zion. But the word to dwell, the one half of a sentence I didn't read previously, he says, I and the children that Yahweh gave me are signs and keys for Israel because they have fallen away from being with Yahweh who wants to dwell on Mount Zion, Bahar Zion. But the word on Mount Zion literally means explain, clarify, brighten, articulation and pronunciation of his instructions, his commandments. His Zadi Yod is my command order. Yahweh Zavod is the name of, it's translated Lord of Hosts or Master of Legions, the emperor surrounded by his battalions, his military forces. And yet every time he talks to us, it's hear the sound of the shofar and take heed. And it's always the same message, again and again, repeatedly, forcefully. That's the word that's spelled as warning. It's ayin vav dalet. That was the word that you looked up. Remember what it meant?
Yeah.
Remember what it said?
Oh, the one that only had 3 uses or something?
3 uses. But ayin vav dalet, he says, I am Yahweh, the only Elohim. Beside me there is no other. It's the place where he's talking about Cyrus, and he says, there is no other. Ayin od zulti. That word od, ayin vav dalet, means repeatedly, forcefully, again and again, continually, enduring. When I read these words, I understand that what Yahuwah is telling us is he established what it is. What it is. He established an order, like he lined up these letters and he placed them and he locked them in. And it doesn't change. I heard it once preached. God doesn't change, but he changed the rules. Is that true? That means he put in an established order.
Well, what's he going to do next then?
He changed the rules, and it's like, well, gosh, if that's true, then that means I cannot go back here and read Isaiah, or Deuteronomy, or the Psalms, or Exodus.
It's either perfect or it ain't.
Did he change the rules? I heard it preached from the pulpit that God changed the rules, and yet the word spelled ayin vav dalet, or here, tav ayin vav dalet hey, means repeatedly, forcefully, and excuse my theatric, dramatic, I'm not yelling at people, I'm trying to emphasize when he says ayin vav dalet, it's repeatedly, forcefully, again and again, continually, still, yet enduring. Do not question how solid and locked in and uncompromising what he built is, and he's fanatically zealous about it. And he says, looking for a people who is like-minded. And Yeshua said, I only say what I hear my Father saying, do what I see my Father doing. So Yeshua is equally zealous and like-minded about being a fanatic about these words. In fact, he himself is these words. These Hebrew letters put into human form, this is just plastic. You put it into human form, and these letters become the human anatomy of Yeshua, the Mashiach. Shiach, Shin Yod Chet, means conversation and communication. Mem means to put into a form. To put a conversation, a communication, words into human anatomy form is the word Mashiach, Messiah. But we never hear of it that way. He came embodying this conversation of these words. So he's not opposed to this. There was a picture that you mentioned earlier, and it was a quote. It was a picture of some guy dressed in a white robe that looked like Jesus holding a rifle, and he
on my
just shot.
Facebook page, I do it for shock value. It showed an image of a Mashiach, it's supposed to be Jesus or something.
Sure.
Shooting Santa with a shotgun, and Santa's laying out. I just kind of wanted to see what the reaction would be. And it was kind of, and I posted the verse about, I think it's in the book of Luke, about, and those enemies mine who would not want me to rule over them, bring them here and slay them before me. Then I put love, Messiah.
Yahweh's vote.
I thought I'd get some crap over it, but I didn't. It was pretty cool.
Yahweh's vote is a military commander.
Yeah.
And Yeshua even said, those who will not have me rule over them, my ways.
Bring him here and slay him.
Bring him here and kill him. Done. They're done. It's like, well, but I love him. He's my gentle.
But he changed the rules.
He changed the rules. No. Boom. This is serious stuff.
It is serious.
Is very serious stuff. So let's get to verse 19 then. Isaiah 8:19. It says, verse 20. It says, if they say to you, verse 19 here, inquire of the necromancers and the diviners. Well, it's like saying inquire of the scientists the great authors of our age, of our culture, and the professors, and listen to what they have to say. And it's like, if you want words of life, go to words of life. Go back to the original Hebrew language of Yahweh. That's the only place. Everything else has been translated, reinterpreted, made stories, metaphors, poetry, which is all fine. It's entertaining, but it's not the words of life. Go to the source of life. And then he says here, verse 20. Listen to this verse. I'm not even going to read it in English. I'm going to tell you what it says in the Hebrew. It's lamed tav vav resh vav. Laturo ve la ta'oda. It's translated by the Torah. It's according to the Torah. But that's not the word Torah, because the word Torah here in verse 20, you'd think the word Torah was... Oh, it is Torah. I have the wrong letter here. Doggone it. Look at that. It's Tav Vav Resh. You know, that happens. You write something down and it puts your mind on a track. Okay, it does say Torah. I thought it said Toro.
Well, you're doing that while we had quite a conversation going, so.
That's true. The point is, Torah is Tav Vav Resh Hey. Hey is the feminine suffix. Tav Vav Resh Vav. Vav is the masculine suffix. The same word is Tav Vav Resh. Tor. And the thing about the word Tor, Tav Vav Resh, is where we get the word tour in English. What is a tour? You go visit places, like take a tour of this library. All these different subjects, all these different interesting stuff. Hey, cars and ships and boats and trains and camels and wow, I'm going on a tour of curiosity. That word literally, tav vav resh, is where you get the word to explore, curiosity, and it's also where you get the word tire, T-I-R-E, which is something around it. To go on a tour is to go around. It's to circumnavigate. It's to go around and check things out. And the word vav resh, pronounced or, like the word aleph-vav resh, is where you get the word light. Manor, like that chandelier, like this leg lamp, that's a menorah. Mem prefix is just a place where it sources light. Even in here, the place where or, man, nun is to turn on or to project, so manor, and the feminine suffix is to put on display. Put light on display. This is a menorah. The true meaning of the word. So Torah is to literally investigate where light comes from. That's the word Torah. So it's translated law. It also means instruction. It's what Yahweh provided to enlighten us. And here's this word. Lamed tav ayin vav dalet hey. That's the word ode. Repeatedly, forcefully. Again and again. Enduring still, yet. And it's the word that means mission, purpose, objective, affirmed solemnly, documentation or documentary, warning, certifying as having a purpose. And he says, according to the Torah and according to this certification that things have a purpose, if they do not speak according to this here, then Ein lo shachar. There is no illumination. There is not with it break of dawn. What does that mean? This is where you found in looking at the computer, looking at a dozen different translations, everybody spins this differently. The word shachar literally means dawn. Well, that's a time of illumination, but it also means blackbird and darkness. Shachar. It means black, maybe dark blue, maybe light. It's the Shachar Allah is at like about 3 in the morning when pure jet black midnight starts becoming slightly illuminated until it becomes the Boker, which is the sun coming over the horizon. So the entire expanse of time between jet black dark to the sun bursting over the horizon, all of that is the Shachar.
It's a different word for the illumination of the noonday also.
That's the word Zohar, which is,
Yeah.
it's a similar word, but that's where brilliant shining, which is the same as the word.
Like Isaiah 58.
Interesting thing, I believe, I'd have to check this out. Shachar, I think it also means to search diligently. Shin resh is, I believe, yeah, to seek early or diligently. Shin resh, to be black And the interesting thing is that when Yeshua was crucified, and they waited till after the Shabbat to go and see him in the morning, so it was actually first day, Sunday morning, they got up early to go look for him. That's the word shachar. So it's not just a time, it's not just meaning darkness or light, it means to seek early or to search diligently. So to say there is no illumination, it doesn't say lo, lamed aleph, it says lamed vav. So here it means ain't according to it illumination, darkness, break of dawn, but you could say, well, wait a minute, seek eagerly, inquire earnestly, went to see, visited, dawn, daybreak, the blackness preceding the dawn, light or hope, sense or meaning, elucidation, shedding light. It also means gloomy and depressed. So I could wrap all these things together and say, here in verse 17, he was talking about two other words for hope. The word spelled chet kaf, and the word that is spelled kuf vav, and yet here for shakar is another word that means hope. And this is part of the poetic that I said I had found if you look at the Hebrew. Only if you look at the dictionary, you realize the hope mentioned about the shachar in verse 20 plays off of the hope mentioned in 17 with two other words. And so as you contemplate the language, you realize, what are you looking for? Why all the books? Why all the great expense? You know, look up there, there's a rifle with a bayonet, from World War I. This guy was holding essentially a bazooka. What are the world...
He's got a great weapon in his arms now. Can't beat that.
There's verses that say, listen to the sound of the shofar. Why? Because there's something about this sound which is startling to wake us up. Here it is at the end of the curse, as of 2010, the 2,730-year curse. Yahweh tells us these metaphorical stories. It's like Israel is the Snow White character from the Walt Disney story, but the Sleeping Beauty. Israel is Yahweh's Sleeping Beauty. Bit the poison apple, fell asleep. What was the poison apple? Turning your mind against the Torah and seeking the culture of Egypt and Assyria. And so he said, fine, have it your way, and comatose for nearly 3,000 years.
I just wonder how many people are aware of the 2,730-year curse.
We've talked about it a number of times. I think...
Why don't we do a short video on that, because...
Well, we did.
We did? I don't even remember now. I think we mentioned it, but I don't know if we went into any detail on it. I know it's in your book.
A few years ago, in 2004, when I first heard of that, no idea what it was about. Never heard of it before in all my life. Never heard of it. I was over in Israel. We're standing there looking across the Kidron Valley. There's Jerusalem. We're up on a place called the Colonnade, and Israeli came over. A man had an elderly woman that was his mother, and he says, what are you guys looking at? What are you doing? Where are you from? And we're telling him, why are you here in Israel? Well, it's the end of the curse. We're here coming back to the Lord.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And cool. The guy says, what are you talking about? And so I told him, Leviticus 26, 4 times Yahweh says, I'll multiply the curse by 7. You look 1,000 years later, Ezekiel 4. Ezekiel laid on his side pointing at this picture of the siege, and it was a metaphorical story again. It carved this, he was told to carve this scene of this siege, the attack of Jerusalem. And he said, just point at that. And people look at, what are you pointing at this picture for? And it's like, bring to their consciousness what's about to happen. Lay on your side 40 days for the southern kingdom, the house of Yehuda. Mentioned about the two houses here. Lay on your other side for 390 days. That's over a year. A year and a month. A day for a year is the curse. And he says, if you do not come back to my words, if you consider my ways to be detestable, abhorrent, who cares? Casual disregard, whatever the reason, you hate my stuff, you don't care about my stuff, I'm going to multiply the curse by 7. And the word 7 is shavah, shin bet ayin, and it means to swear a vow, and it means to be overflowing, pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing, and it also means the curse you get for breaking the vow, if the vow is not satisfied. And he says, if you find my ways to be reprehensible, so disgusting, so like, get that stuff out of my face. This stuff has been called Gnosticism, it's been called Judaizing, it's been called all kinds of detestable, you might say, adjectives to get people to turn away. That's part of the curse, is that we were kept away from this for nearly 3,000 years.
Well, it's the only explanation for a worldwide revival such as we've experienced that pretty much began right on the exact date, around 2010.
Well, you know, the interesting thing about
Worldwide.
this, the church, the Christian church for the last 2,000 years has been used to perpetuate the curse, to keep the lost scattered people of Israel, the lost tribes, away from these matters for all this time. Imagine that. The church itself, Yahweh has used to be the tool to change the translations, to make it illegal to ever look at these things. People have been put to death for contemplating Hebrew. And here we have it available. Thank you, Yahweh. Gosh.
Hallelujah.
Well, if you're looking for hope, if you're looking for illumination, if you're looking for the truth, if you want the key, it's right here in Isaiah. He said, I and my children, the names of the children, have been for keys and signs. The word for sign is aleph-vav-tav. Here it's in the plural, so it's aleph-tav, vav-tav, oath. We did these talks about this being the aleph-tav, the first letter to the last letter and everything in between. Everything is a key, a sign, a symbol. If you want to be enlightened, if you want to know the truth, seek this language. And so then Yahweh says, if it's not in agreement or according to these things, the Torah and the testimony. Okay, the Torah is the instructions, the first 5 books is the Torah, the Nevi'im is the prophets, the Ketuvim are the writings, and the testimonies. What are the testimonies? Well, this word, ayin vav dalet. Tav, ayin vav dalet hey. It's got a prefix and a suffix letter. Ayin vav dalet. Well, the word ayin dalet without the vav, that's the root word, and it means witness and testimony. It also is the root word for choice best treasure. It's also the root word for the Garden of Eden, which literally means refined, delicate, luxury, delight, and pleasure. Where everything that Yahweh's given as his choice best treasure that he gave to us, but it's basically saying, these are the stories of our family history, which is all through the Old Testament, where he says, everything that happened is a metaphorical story. Yeah, it's true. I believe they're true, that there was a Red Sea crossing, that there was an Exodus, that there was Noah's flood. I believe all that. A lot of people don't. I choose to believe it's true, but he says every one of these were a story to attest to testify as bearing witness that everything Yahweh said had a reason, a meaning, a purpose, a mission with an objective. And it's the same meaning and objective that's laid out in the aleph-bet. Aleph is a prefix letter that means I will or I am. And then it goes through to the tav, which is the sign to say, okay, that is accomplished. And then every one of these letters, as we talked before, can be appropriated, proving that Yeshua is the Messiah, because these letters speak of him, the guy that was here 2,000 years ago that the Jews don't like to acknowledge. My point is, there's great purpose to the Torah and the testimony, and he says, if you go to the ones who have great knowledge, the professors, the scientists, the necromancers, the astrologers, the sorcerers, the diviners, what's the light? If it's according to the Torah and the testimony. So we've had conversations about various things going on in churches and different groups these days, that gold dust percolating down, and gemstones, and oil bleeding out of Bibles.
Lying signs and wonders.
Are they lying? Here, I wrote a list. I'll just do this right before we end here. I wrote a list of different things that I've heard proving that we're right and everybody else is wrong, whoever we is. Thought I'd make it an interesting, kind of little, not so interesting, maybe like a little poster thing. Here. Whether you know it or not, everyone has a subconscious craving to find a different reality, or a true reality. I heard somebody say that. That's just this concept. Whether you're aware of it, whether you know it, something within you is craving for the truth. So I've heard these things through my 65 years. We're right, everybody else is wrong. What's the qualification of that? How do you know you're right? I make the declaration, we're right and everybody else is wrong. Listen to us, pay no attention to the words in the book, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. So these are just different things I've heard. We're the only authorized priests, dispensers of the graces. Oh, I guess I should go to that church then. You're going to burn in hell. This is the truth. I don't want to burn in hell, I better go to that church. God shows up here proving our authenticity. Well, I'd like to go to a church where God shows up, I guess I'll go to that one. You're all deceived. The Holy Spirit confirms us. If everybody else is deceived, maybe I shouldn't pay any attention. Recurring visits to heaven, you can't beat that for validation. I know people that have gone to heaven numerous times. Blind guides, you're also ignorant. We have revelation. So go to that church. Woohoo! Gold dust and gemstones. Eat crow, losers. It's a personal relationship. You can't tell me what's right or wrong.
God knows my heart, Eric.
That's one of them on here.
Yeah.
The proof we're right is that we run. I heard that on the Catholic radio.
Well, it doesn't mean that to me.
That's another one that's on here. The proof we're right is that we won. I heard the Catholics say that. I used to be real smart. Now I just flow in the Spirit. To think is carnal. Someone said that to me. Answered prayers. No reason to question more.
But it's for the kids.
Power and anointing. Gnostics suck. Angels appear at our services. You guys are stuck in formula. God-ordained ritual. Liturgy is the highest order.
Oh boy.
It's beyond comprehension. Quit trying to figure it out. Our experience with the living one blows away anything written in the past. Our group has direct descendancy from the fathers of our faith. He wants us to be happy. I'm not happy over there. Signs and wonders. Enough said. Oh, I know. It's in the alphabet. Doesn't mean that to be. There is no law, only love. Every day is set apart. Each day is holy. He knows my heart. Truth is whatever you want it to be. Our God is bigger than your intellect. Only if we say so can you make it to heaven. The quest is, how do we get back to the truth? It's in the aleph-bet. If it's not according to the Torah and the testimony, there's no light in them. It's all darkness with a little bit of light. You want the Zohar? That's a term used for the Kabbalist book, but nevertheless, it's the brilliant shining. You want the brilliant shining? It's in the Hebrew letters. Learn how to read the Torah for yourself, word for word, letter for letter.
Or the rest of the book is out of context.
Even if they have gold dust, gemstones, oil oozing out, angel visits, trips to heaven, answered prayers, signs and wonders, if they speak not according to the Torah and the testimony, there's no light in them. Now that's the way I take this. And so I go to the place of the source of light, which is Yahuwah's words that he gave us as a covenant relationship without failing, without being stopped and put into some other communication. Hello, is Yahweh there? Oh, no. He's not a new thing. It's what he gave us. It's not a new conversation. It's the same conversation again and again, repeatedly and forcefully. And if you choose to not believe this, you're entitled to believe whatever you want. Better hope it's right. Better hope that your answered prayers is proof that you're right. Better hope that your angel visits is proof. Your trips to heaven is proof. Because if it contradicts the Torah, the testimony, or if it makes no mention of the eternal covenant, the Brit that he made with Israel according to the meanings of these letters that Yeshua came to affirm solemnly as a warning, Ayin Vav Dalet, you might be one of those 5 bridesmaids that don't get in. Whatever that means. Another one of his metaphorical stories. Last Carl. Take heed. Warning. Take heed.
Good job, Eric. That was a good video, brother. Oh no, it wasn't recording? Kidding.